time that we complete our speedrun from 100k to 10 mil. By the end of this video, you will know how long it took me, as well as the secrets, so that you can know exactly how to do it yourself. Before this video starts, this is part 2 of my speedrun from 100k to 10 mil. If you haven't seen the first one, go and watch that first. I'll leave a link in the description and a card on the screen. Make sure you go and check that out first, because there will be so many spoilers in this video, it is not funny. When we left off, we had a bunch of orders in the bazaar. We sold our Swarm 1 book and our Necromancer brooch, making us around 270k. We were also able to buy a book of stats and a Giant's Tooth, which, as long as they sell, will end up making us like 400 to 500k profit. In the last part, we left an order in for an Ancient Crimson chestplate. We bought it for 2 mil and we had it listed for 2.65 mil, profiting us 650k. But unfortunately, that item did not sell. So I listed that back up again in hopes that it would sell. Now, at this point, I tried to have a look at some of the other items that I was flipping, and while they were still quite good, the aftermath of me logging off for an entire day was that the margins on a lot of these items had closed quite a bit. This meant that I needed to look for some other items, as well as continuing to obviously do the items that were working quite well. But because I had quite a bit of money, I didn't foresee this being that much of an issue. After placing the orders I wanted to place, I had only 39k left. So I wasted a bit of time looking for items I couldn't even afford, then decided I may as well go do my daily NPC flips. I want to take this time to clear up a few things from the first part. The time I get is pretty good, but it can absolutely be beaten. I know for a fact that even I could beat it. The reason for that is that there are fantastic methods like taking advantage of events or some crafts, that even some that have been mentioned in the comments of the last video, like gems and enchanted books, that are extremely fast. The reason I didn't do that is because I want this speed run to be repeatable for anyone at any time, and if I use a specific item and that item is not flippable at that time, it's useless to new players. That is why I only use easy to replicate methods, so all you need to do is find an item that has a good margin and high volume of insta buy and sells, and you are good to go. It actually was a real shame, because Necromancer brooches and Giant's Tooths margin had really collapsed in the time that I had off. It was basically not worth me hopping off. I would have made a lot more money in a shorter period of time had I just stayed on for an unfathomable amount of time and sank a little bit more sweat into my chair, but nonetheless, I decided I would continue to place some orders for these items, and it's not like they weren't working. They were doing quite well for me, but it was just a lot less than it was before. And then it was at this point. This is the point where I saw a brand new item, the Dragon Horn. This item was 850k and had about a 350,000 coin margin when I first saw it, which was just absolutely insane. What I didn't know is exactly how insane it was going to end up being for me, as you will see towards the end of the video. And amazingly, in literally 11 minutes, the Necromancer chestplate sells. To put that in perspective, I had that listed for at least 6 hours last time, and it didn't sell in the entire 6-hour period. Which is actually extremely handy, because I have 4 million coins now in my purse that I can look for more flips with. Which of course included another Dragon Horn. Quick side note, have you ever seen anybody with this many Necromancer brooches? Because I seriously have not. At this point, I found another flip. Wither Blood was about 310k profit per one, with an initial investment of 2.1 million coins. All my main flips were still going great. I was making insane profit, but at this point I had an issue, and that was because of all of the many orders that I had, it was getting hard to make sure I was undercutting all of the cretins. So I cancelled a bunch of the orders, especially ones that were not doing super well or that hadn't filled at all for a long period of time, and left in just a select few orders that were historically making me quite a lot of money, like Necromancer's brooch and Giant's Tooth, or that had huge potential like the Wither Blood and Dragon's Horns. I was looking at the auction house as well quite a bit, but I'd ultimately decided against it, mainly because I wasn't certain that if I did buy anything it would be able to sell in the appropriate amount of time. And really, I just thought I could do a lot more actively looking at the bazaar with the money rather than buying something on the auction house. And finally, even though it kind of seemed like it may not happen, one of the Dragon's Horns finally bought. Unfortunately, the sell price of this item had been absolutely decimated, but even still, I was looking to make about 200,000 coins per one. But it didn't stop there. It was like the floodgates had been opened. The next one came within 5 minutes, and literally moments later, the first one had sold. And it was with that sale that I actually hit the 5 million coin mark, the halfway point, in just under 2 hours. But now I had 5 million coins and I went on a spending spree. I put an order in for 4 more dragon horns. And while I was putting in orders for other things and changing around some other orders, including another 8 Necromancer's brooches, one of them I had already bought, so I listed that expecting another 200,000 coins profit. I was changing some more orders around and it has literally been another 37 seconds, and 2 more had bought. It was slightly worrying though because they were selling a lot slower than they were buying, but as long as they did end up selling, everything was going to be okay, although my hope was really that they started to sell quickly. It was at this point that everything seemed to die down quite a bit. I was basically at the point where I would buy a bunch of different items and I would just not be able to sell them at all. So I ended up basically stockpiling a bunch of different items. It didn't take all that long until I was completely out of money and just left with items that absolutely would not sell. I also want to remind you of exactly how I actually flip in the bazaar, and that is literally to undercut everybody. Here is a short montage of me literally just dropping the price as soon as I see anybody outdating any of my items. I basically make it so that if I'm flipping, you may as well not be, because I will be the only one buying or selling anything today. Thank you. At my peak, I believe I had something like 7 dragon horns. It was just insane, honestly. And with each dragon horn being worth like over 1 million coins, the challenge seemed to be like virtually over, but the only problem is that I could not get them to sell. I know when it's sped up and chopped up the way that it is, it doesn't look like it took a long time, but in between each sale was sometimes like 15 to 20 minutes. Honestly, at this stage, I probably should have just logged off because it was literally just, there were points where I was just staring at the chat box, waiting for anybody to outdate me so that I could take back my spot as rightful ruler of the item. Oh, and hey, you remember how I mentioned Witherblood before? I actually placed an order for a few of those. And with that, I did my most controversial thing in this whole challenge yet. I logged off with an order of 2 Witherblood buying, 10 Necromancer's brooches, as well as I was selling 4 Dragon's horns and some other items. And the next day, I got back on with plans of finishing the challenge. I'm hoping that this really demonstrates the power of leaving offers in. That is right, literally everything bought and sold except for 1 Witherblood. And not only that, the price of Witherblood went up by like 300,000 coins. In the way of taking inventory, I had 6.79 million coins in the purse, a Witherblood worth 2.7 million coins, and 10 Necromancer's brooches, which, if they all sold, was worth about 900,000 coins. In other words, the challenge was pretty much complete, except I had to sell the items. And because I didn't want to be cancelled for controversy, I decided that I would sit on and wait until they sold. We're currently at 2 hours 38 as of everything being listed. I literally had to leave this in because I thought it was pretty funny, but you've just seen me literally spend like a long period of time just reordering a booster cookie like over and over and over again, until finally I get one and list it up, and with taxes, I'm going to make 12,000 coins from it. So I get outdated on the Witherblood, I relist it, and it sells instantly. And with that, the challenge is over. Thank you so much for watching.